And I got into this coaching room, and within, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours of being there, somebody said something, got called to the front of the room, and the facilitator of the event said, okay, just cry your ancestral tears. And I was like, okay, so here's what's not going to happen.
What? You are now listening to the Highlight Reel Builder for Authors, the Going North podcast. I'm your host, certified self-leadership trainer and author of the best-selling book, Stay the Course, Dom Brightman. And you're going to be getting some goodies today from the guest that's up next. Before the episode officially starts for real, we got another podcast review to highlight, and this one is from Dave, composer of Rachel's Song. And this review is titled, Let Dom Help You Find Your True North, because we're going north, baby! We'll add to that baby in myself. But anyways, his actual review continues here. Sometimes you need a little help in finding your way in life. Dom's guests share their wisdom from their own life's journey. His episodes are always interesting and entertaining. Thanks a bunch, Dave. Appreciate you for leaving a review on the podcast about the podcast and all the information, inspiration, and motivation that the listeners are going to get. Now let the interview begin. And today on the Highlight Reel Builder for Authors, known as the Going North podcast, we got another super special, awesome human for you today, my friends. That's right, indeed, for the Fourfold Author Formula Bonus Series, baby. That's right, indeed, where a bunch of fabulous humans decided to come together and put pen to paper and join the business of immortality together. That's right, indeed, that business of immortality. Indeed, we got another super special, awesome human from that book, because today's guest, she's a mom first, y'all. Mom first, indeed, as well as an entrepreneur, life coach, and author that is passionate about helping women live their lives with more joy from the inside to the out, baby. That's right, from the inside out, indeed. And she even has a bachelor's as well as a master's as well in the master neurotransformational life coach as well. So let's give it up for Miss A.L. herself, the ascending and soon to be legendary Alysia Lyons. How you doing today, Alysia?
Thank you so much. I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me on your podcast. Excited to talk about this book, I'll tell you.
Ah, yeah. That's right, indeed. I heard the setbacks just kept coming as soon as the book came into your sphere of influence. Sadly.
It's funny that, Peggy had dealt with a lot of the setbacks, but it wasn't passed along to me. So the stress of putting the book together she held that all on her own. I wrote my part, I sent it to her, and we were good to go. So, yeah.
There you go. Well, she has a wellness coach and she's got guns, so hey, what can you expect, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's right, indeed. Pew pew. So my goodness, so since it's your first time on the podcast, usually try to get the backstory of the folks that appear on here for the first time, for the folks listening at home, around the world, or even on the pancake if they're a flat earther. So my filling us in on any cavities I may have missed about the amazing Alysia.
Yeah, so I just kind of fell into this world of coaching. I wasn't really looking, I wasn't like, hey, I really want to be a coach. How do I make that happen? I was in a direct sales business, and I had made it to, top 2% of the company. I was driving for free. I was leading amazing women. And then my life fell apart. And within 6 months, I would say that everything that I felt proud of in my life was gone one by one. So I was proud of being in the top 2% of the company. I was proud of my free car. I was a wife. I was a military wife, and I was a mom. And so first went the wife and the military wife part, and then I stopped working. So there went the car, and there went the leadership role. And then I started feeling like a terrible mom. And I found a coach that worked with specifically that direct sales company, and they had this coaching program, and they said, hey, it's going to really help you in your sales and your relationships and with your team. It'll help you be a better leader. And I was like, okay, whatever's going to help me, sign me up. I don't care. I'm all into this. And I got into this coaching room, and within, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours of being there, somebody said something, got called to the front of the room, and the facilitator of the event said, okay, just cry your ancestral tears. And I was like, okay, so here's what's not going to happen.
What?
I am not going to open my mouth because when you open your mouth, that could happen. And I'm not doing that. I don't, ancestral tears, what is that? Excuse me. Well, I literally didn't open my mouth for the next 4 days, and to the point where the facilitator like sent me a message on the third day, like, are you okay? But I fell in love. It was so weird. It was like this because it terrified the snot out of me, but by the end of it, I was in love, and I couldn't not keep going back. Like, so I fell in love with this community. I fell in love with personal development, and my teacher, Coach Sean Smith, he says, we have the ability to change people's lives by making sounds with our mouth. And I was like, that is so cool. I want to change some people's lives, you know? And I had this experience in the third time that I went to this program. Like I've been 7 times. Like I said, I can't get enough of it. But the third time that I went, I realized right before the event that I was feeling guilty about something that had happened with my son in the past, like 2 or 3 years earlier. And when I say that I realized that I felt guilty, it was like I was feeling massive guilt about this event that was out of my control, that wasn't really my fault, but I was taking 100% responsibility for it, you know, because that's my child. I'm a mom. Like, you want your children to be happy and healthy, and I felt like I had done something that led to him not being happy and healthy. So I went to this event, I released the guilt, and in hindsight, I realized how heavy it was, how it was affecting my relationships with other people in our lives, as well as my relationship with my son, because I have this fail-safe mechanism where I'm gonna leave you before you have the chance to hurt me. And so I was projecting into the future that one day my son would come back to me and say, how come you didn't protect me? And I couldn't handle that. And so he would come and give me a hug, and he would get like a 3-second hug, and I'd push him away. And that was not okay with me. After the fact, after letting the guilt go, it was like, that's not the relationship I want with my son. And then I looked around and I was like, oh, mom guilt is everywhere. And it starts from the moment they hand you that baby. They say, here's your baby, and here's an extra added sack of guilt to go right along with it.
Yeah, I guess there's walnuts in that sack.
Yes. I think I've met maybe 3 or 4 moms who have ever told me I don't have a mom guilt. And it's a heavy emotion, and we don't know what it's doing to us until we let it go. Yeah. So that's me in a nutshell.
That's right, indeed.
Yeah.
That's right, with all the cashews, indeed. That's right, indeed.
Mhm.
That's right, indeed. So my goodness, so mom guilt, letting it go. So 3 people out of, I guess, all the folks that have come across your way into the land of your realm of coaching said they don't have mom guilt? Did you have to question them to realize, hey, it's actually there? You're just playing denial.
You know, I didn't want to if they don't feel it, it's their time. It'll come. Maybe it's not there. I don't want to put it there. So I did get to talk to one of them, and she practices a lot of the things that I teach. And I asked her, I said, when did you get into personal development? And she said, when I was 13. And I was like, that's why you don't feel guilty. You grew up with this. You grew up with, understanding boundaries and understanding self-care and understanding that putting yourself first isn't selfish. Those are a lot of the things that create mom guilt. I would say that the number one thing that we don't do as parents is we don't make an actual physical list of what a good mom or good parent does and what they don't do. So we're going around just with this foggy idea of what a good parent does, what a good mom does. And then we have conflicting sources. Social media will tell you one thing. Your mom did something different than you're, willing or able to do. Whatever the case may be, your best friend does this. For me, a example that keeps popping up is homeschooling, because I love the idea of homeschooling. I love the idea of it. I did it for 2 years or a year and a half during the pandemic. And God bless my child for being as intelligent as he is, because I don't know that he would have survived or learned as well as he did, because teaching him is not my strength. It's not my strong suit. It's if it was really important to me, if it was more than just I like the idea of it, I'd figure it out. But he's also an only child. And I don't think an only child should be home without friends, without other kids to interact with. Like, there's so much socialization that goes on in school. And I think that that's just as important as the education part. Until there becomes a problem with going to school, it's not really something that I feel like I need to fix. But every once in a while I think, oh, yeah, if I was a better mom, I would homeschool my kids.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually interesting, the whole list of qualities, because it's like, hey, the qualities are great, but hey, everybody has a different style, and you can read as many books you want until the actual battlefield opens. It's like, hey, the landmine's coming, and sometimes they're multiple, and you probably have a few of them from experience, just from the fault from being a mom. So it's like, hey, prepare all you want. It's like, hey, first contact is coming.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's I wasn't a reader. I'm still not a reader. I'm more of an auditory learner. I like to listen to books significantly more than I enjoy sitting down and reading. But I didn't read or listen to any parenting books until probably my son was 6, maybe. And then the book that I found was a personal development book that was disguised as a parenting book. And I was so excited. And the only reason that I picked up that book was because my boyfriend was like, you read all this stuff and listen to all this personal development stuff. Why don't you pick up a parenting book? And I was like, oh, all right. But I found this book called No Drama Discipline by Dr. Dan Siegel. And because we were having some drama discipline in our house. And, there's only one thing I remember from that book, and it was connect before you correct. And I live by that now. where when my son gets activated emotionally, the first thing I ask him is, do you want a hug? And I'd say like 9 times out of 10, he says yes. And then the other time that he says no is because he's mad at me. And then he'll come back and say, yes, he wants the hug.
Do they last longer than 3 seconds?
They do last longer than 3 seconds now. I don't push them away anymore. Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah,
Yes.
the love languages, the 5 love languages, I think Gary Chapman wrote that book, was something that I had read as a spouse. I wanted to, or I bought it when I was a spouse, and then I didn't actually finish it until after we had split up. But it was a really impactful book, and I maybe if I had read it earlier, I don't know.
That's just the way you said it. It's like, oh, I got halfway through and I don't need this. Oh, maybe I should have finished.
Oh, oops. But it's written for relationships, and I started applying it to the parent-child relationship. And I noticed it first with my dad. I don't remember how I made the connection, but I just had this thought that he and I weren't speaking the same love language when I was growing up. And it wasn't that he didn't love me. It's just that he wasn't communicating it in my love language. So I turned around and I asked my son, how do you feel the most loved by me? Or what is it that I do that makes you feel the most loved? And he said, when you snuggle me. And that was around the time that I had been pushing him away. And so at that point, I changed my morning routine so that I would have time to start the day with snuggles, so that he would start the day feeling loved. And it shifted a lot.
Hashtag snuggle time, y'all. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. Take yourself from regular parent to super parent. That's right indeed. That's right. Put on the cape where it says hashtag snuggle time. That's right.
And of course, it's different for every child, but I tell a lot of parents what to ask their kid. What is it that I do that makes you feel the most loved? You know, because when I was growing up, I was, quality time and gift giving and receiving were my top 2. And so I would go to the grocery store with my dad and I'd ask him to buy me some gum. And I didn't know at the time that how irritated that made him. The only reason I was going to the store is to get him to buy me something. I found that out later in life, but I know I was just trying to connect with him. And I really think that his love languages were quality time and words of affirmation. And, you know, we just had, even though we both shared quality time, we had very different interests. And so we just never found that thing that filled my love bucket, as I call it, with my son.
That's right. All the heart emojis, indeed. That's right
Mhm.
indeed. That's right indeed. So you mentioned your dad. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. And I believe he's the major part of your story in the book, if I'm not mistaken, right?
That's true. Yeah, he's my part is called I am my father's daughter. My dad passed away the day that I connected with Peggy, and I've been observing myself from a coaching standpoint through this process of grieving, and I think that he was diagnosed with prostate cancer 11 years before he passed. So we knew that it was inevitable. And we got about a 6-month warning that his medication was no longer working. And when his mom passed, she's had Alzheimer's for like 15 years. And when she stopped remembering who I was, I stopped visiting her because that was hard for me. And I, was a lot younger at that point. And then when she passed, I was really upset that I had done that. I wished that I had done something different. I wish that I'd kept visiting her. And so I only had one grandparent left when she passed. And so I went to my mom's mom, and I spent as much time with her as I could, because I knew she would eventually pass away, but I didn't know when that would happen. So I made it a mission of mine to not feel that regret again. And so when she passed, I felt like I had done everything that I needed to do to feel complete in that relationship. So when we got that 6-month warning, I made that. We didn't know at that time it was a 6-month warning, but when they said the medication stopped working, I was pretty sure that there wasn't going to be another miracle drug that was going to work. And so I started going over to see him twice a week, once with my son and once on my own. And it was a beautiful time to spend together. But I had done a lot of healing around this feeling like my dad didn't love me long before that. My very first coach, I mentioned that he didn't love me, and she said, "You have a lot of evidence that he didn't love you, but I want you to go search for some evidence that he did." And that was so powerful, because I suddenly got access to all these memories that were gone. And, when we're stuck inside this story of it's not raining outside because I'm not wet. If I'm not wet, it can't be raining outside. But then when we step outside and then we feel the drops on our head, like, oh, I guess my perspective has shifted and it is raining outside. So that was kind of what happened. Is I was stuck in this story of my dad doesn't love me because of this, and this. And she said, find some evidence that he does. And it was like childhood memories came back, and adult memories came back. Like it was so healing that I didn't have to deal with the regret of we didn't have that time together, because I got that time back.
That's what I'm talking about indeed. That's what I'm talking
Mhm.
about indeed. Yeah. Actually, kind of interesting how the whole parent-child relationship can be. It's like growing up, it's like, oh yeah, they're the parent, and then once you get to those adult years, it kind of changes a bit, where you get to learn a little bit more about them, and then it's like, oh, wow, alrighty, cool, see some similarities. Like, hey, wait a second, why didn't you tell me this story sooner? It's like, well, you're a freaking kid. Like, I still see you as a baby, but not as baby now. It's like you're a 5'7" baby as opposed to a 1'2" baby.
Yeah, the parent child relationship is such an interesting one, and I've been really diving into it in the last year, and the generational trauma that, my dad was the way he was because of the way that he was with his dad. And I didn't know 99% of those stories until after he passed away. And at his memorial, everyone talked about how my dad was the embodiment of loving other people. And in that moment, I realized that the way that my dad loved us was to be emotionally distant from us, because him and his dad fought so much. It was like World War III every night at dinner. And he didn't know how to not yell at us. He didn't know how to control that part. And so he distanced himself instead. And he did that out of love. And when you look at it from that perspective, when you step out of your house and into the rain, that's a whole different perspective than he didn't love me because he wasn't connected with me. I don't know that it was 100% intentional, but I do know that that's kind of what happened, where, my brother said our dad was a yelling dad. And I was like, the last time I remember him yelling at me was when he was teaching me how to ride a bike. This is why I don't like teaching my son stuff, because I don't know how to not yell when it's time to teach him something and he's not getting it. It's like, I didn't have that as an example. And so I don't want to yell at him while I'm teaching him stuff. Let's watch a YouTube video on how to learn how to roller skate. True story.
Well, hey, when did you on the tube, right?
Yep. Thank God for YouTube. I will say that. There is a video for everything.
That's right indeed. That's right indeed. So I guess that's one of the many things you found out that you and your dad had in common as you grew up in the years. And be like, oh wow, so we have a lot in freaking common here, except for the whole polar opposite thing, where I guess his father was the yelling type, and he decided to go the complete opposite side with no middle ground in terms of
Right.
parenting, I guess.
And so what I do, I kind of did something similar in my parenting. I was like, okay, well, I don't want that. I don't want to be that. I don't want my child to experience that. So I'm going to do something different. And I didn't do the polar opposite, but one thing that I wish that my dad had done would be explain some of the things that he did. So when I was, we'll say 10 years old, the garage door was left open, and my bike and I think a couple of other bikes were stolen out of the garage. I have no idea if it was me. I never thought it was me that left it open, but it could have been. But we went to go buy a new bike, and when we were at the checkout, he said, okay, I'm going to take half of the cost of this bike out of your checking account. And I'm like, whoa, I have to pay for it. And okay, I get it as a parent. Yes, here's the lesson that you learn, and maybe next time you'll close the garage door. But that wasn't the lesson that I learned, because it wasn't explained to me. The lesson I learned is I better spend my money before somebody else takes it from me. Because I'm not in control of somebody. Like, I better spend my money, right? So I sit down and I explain everything, probably to the annoyance of my son, but I explain everything. I lost my temper this morning because I'm a surrogate. I am pregnant with twins, and being jostled is not something that I enjoy right now. And there's a seat in our couch that is sort of in the walkway, and the dog and my son love to just bump up against it when they're walking by. And it's very jostling to me. And so I asked him not to do that. And literally 3 seconds later, he did it again. And I was like, dude, please stop doing that. And probably a minute and a half later, it happened again. And I just lost it, because it's like, okay, like, why? It's driving me crazy. Why do you do it? And he said, it wasn't me, it was the dog. And I knew when he said that it was true. And I still, I was in the hormones in that moment. I was like, no, it wasn't, it was you. And then I just started feeling so bad. And I left the house because I couldn't calm myself down after that. So I know when I'm struggling to calm down, I'll go for a walk or I'll go for a drive. I just need a little change of scenery. We needed some carrots and potatoes for dinner. So I went to the store, I grabbed some carrots and potatoes, and I came back home. And when I came into his room, I said, "You want to help me cut some carrots and potatoes?" And he said, "Okay." And I said, "All right." And he goes, "Mom, I didn't hit the chair." And I said, "I know." He goes, "You know?" I was like, "Okay, hold on." When I yelled at you, I did not know. But when you said you didn't do it, I realized that it wasn't you. But I was in my feelings, and I was upset, and I am sorry. And that's the kind of conversation that I wish that I would have heard, or that my parents would have had with me. And I would say 99.9% of my limiting beliefs came from those kind of interactions. Because what I've recently learned is that when we're kids, we think that the humans that are raising us are perfect. How could they not be? And then if they're perfect, that means something must be wrong with me. But if we show them through conversation that we're not perfect, that we make mistakes, and take responsibility for our mistakes and apologize for hormonal blowing up, they learn a different lesson, and they learn that it's not about them.
Yeah, that's right indeed. That's right indeed. Hey, goes with the territory too. Teenage brain is a developing brain where it's like, hey, don't do this thing. All right, cool. All right, Cheetos. All right, they do it again 3 seconds later. It's like, yo, oh, my bad. And then out of nowhere, it's like, it happens again. It's like, oh no, it totally wasn't me this time. I had a pineapple in my hand. Trust me, it was pineapple.
Yeah, totally could have been him the third time, but the reaction did not equal the action. My reaction was not equal to his action. That's where the hormones come in. I don't like blaming things on hormones, but I'm carrying twins, so they can have the credit this time.
The babies. That's right indeed, the babies. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. That's right. She's taking care of 3, y'all. That's right indeed. That's right indeed.
Hormones for 3 today.
There you go. That's an episode title, Hormones for 3.
Well, I am writing a book about my surrogacy journeys, so that might be a chapter. Or maybe the name of the book. I haven't even figured out what I'm calling the book yet. Hormones for 3 sounds good to me.
There you go. A chapter titled Hormones for 3 from the Mac herself. That's right indeed. The mother author coach. She's a Mac, y'all. She's about the Mac daddy, y'all. Let me stop. Or should I say Mac mama, yeah?
Right? They don't have very many Mac mamas yet. It's all Mac daddies, right?
But hey, I guess that's what the Woman King is about, right? Let me stop. Never saw the movie, but perfect timing for the bad joke. So my goodness, since you've been on a few of these interviews already, is there a question that you wish to be asked more often when you're on the guest side of the microphone?
That is a good question. I actually don't like knowing the question ahead of time, because then I think about it way too much. And then I have it all planned out of this is how I'm going to say it. And then when I don't say it that way, then I get mad that I didn't say it the way I wanted to say it. And so it's like, if I don't know the questions ahead of time, I do way better. Questions. No, I don't. I love the questions that people ask me, because I love the curiosity. I actually told my son the other day, I said, don't ever stop asking questions. And true to form, he said, why? And it wasn't like, it was not on purpose. It was like, that was his reaction to that quote statement. And then because he realized it afterwards, he was like, "Oh, sorry," but yeah, I was like, I love that kid so much. Like, he keeps the days very interesting. Mhm.
Perfection. That's what I'm talking about, indeed. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. So, my goodness. So, another question we're loving to pop on, folks, recently about the book, and the answers have been interesting this far. So, if this book, The Four-Fold Formula, All Things Wellness, if it was a food, what would it be and why?
Mm. I would say I I knew you were going to ask that question, but I didn't mention my book that I wrote for mom guilt, and I had a perfect answer for that. So I'm going to tell you that answer. Because my book that I wrote is called Good Moms Don't, and it's about mom guilt. And so I was gonna call it, like, it's apple pie because it's a guilty pleasure. But okay. Um, okay.
I love it.
For the fourfold formula, I'm also gonna call it. I'm gonna call it cheesecake because there's so many slices that you kind of want to digest it like slowly because there's a lot. It's a lot. It's an amazing book, but the more slowly that you digest it, I think the more that it'll sink in. And I don't know if you've eaten 2 pieces of cheesecake, but it's just like too much.
Was that
I
a
don't know.
pun intended?
I'm giving up sugar when I'm done being pregnant. And so I'm on a sugar kick right now. But I'm loving my desserts.
Ah, there you go. That's right, indeed. We'll see how long she lasts. We'll invite her back for round 2, and then we'll have the Zoom background just being a giant cheesecake. See how she reacts.
See how that's sabotage. I already have one of those in my house sabotaging me. My boyfriend's like, I can't eat any more sugar. Hey, you want to go get some pie? Really? What are you doing?
That's not sabotage. It's just building up your resilience and discipline.
Like, that's a man thing to say, is what that is. Oh my gosh. This morning we were eating pancakes for breakfast. And he made himself way more than he needed. And he knew it. He sat down, he's like, this is way more than I need to eat. And usually he cleans his plate. And he left like a third of the pancakes left. And he said, I'm done. Are you still hungry? And he handed me the plate. And I said, I'm so proud of you for not cleaning your plate. And he said, I know. He's like, I could have cleaned it. And I said, but at what cost? And he just died laughing because that's what they say about like going to war and stuff. Like, but at what cost? Like, it's a war in your body right now. I think he's gonna love that I told that story. So
That's right. The flat earthers are proud too, y'all. That's right, indeed. Oh man, but it ain't about flat Earth and apple pie, even though it kind of is, since the fourfold formula is pie and cheesecake. You know what? It's an apple pie cheesecake. There we go. That's right. That's right.
Have you had that? That is so good. I'm telling you, I'm trying to quit. I'm gonna quit in January, and so I'm trying all the stuff. I'm trying all the stuff because I want to have, I want to remember what I'm missing.
That's right. And then 30 days in, you'll just have a random hankering for some random object that you never haven't thought of before for no reason.
It's it's not fair. Why does sugar have to taste so good and be so bad for you?
Well, hey, it's legal cocaine.
It's as addictive. That's what they say. It's as addictive. Oh God.
Well, before any more rabbit holes appear, we're coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive, and that is if you don't wake up tomorrow and you're 25 again, but you're still in 2022, what advice would you give to yourself?
I was 25 again. I woke up in 2022. I heard you ask this question too. And I was like, I don't know how I would answer that. But what's present to me right now, I would say like my biggest regret was that I stopped writing for 12 years. And it was because I had an unrealistic expectation. And I thought that I would wake up, I would release my book and I would immediately be J.K. Rowling. And I stopped. But I think you said with all the information that I had now when I was 25, I would just keep writing. If I had the information that I have now when I was 25, I would keep writing. I'd probably have my son a little bit younger too, because I'd have more energy with him. Having a 10-year-old when you're 40 is hard. They get more and more energy and you have less and less.
Hey, it's simple. Just see yourself as 4 years old.
Yeah. All the things that I put off doing, I would just do those things. Just have put off taking care of my body physically. I stopped doing something that I loved. I waited for kids or kid. I didn't want to be outnumbered by my children, so I stopped at one. But I kept
have a random kid on your head and be like, "Hey, mom, get your kids on the feet." Like, we got you, mom.
my grandma had 7 children. I was like, good Lord, Grandma, what? Are you glutton for punishment? You, even between you and Grandpa, you can't like wrangle them all. They outnumber you.
Yeah, you can. You just teach them everything you know except for the one thing. And that'll be your trump card. And then they fall on their face and be like, "Hey, what'd you do that for?" Like, you're getting too big for your britches. That's all that happened.
My mom actually told me when my son started walking, she goes, push him down. I was like, what? And she goes, it's too early. Push him down. It's like, did you do that to me? Now I understand some of my problems.
Sure indeed.
Apparently she let my oldest brother walk when he was ready and the rest of us go push down.
Hey, you gotta be pushed to the top somehow, right? Let me stop.
You gotta learn how to overcome those challenges, right? Oh, God bless parents. That's just all I have to say. It's just God bless parents. Like they're doing the best they can.
Yeah, that's right. Doing the best they can indeed. Well, I know the best thing to do, folks listening to this show, is to follow you and all the stuff that you're doing. So for those who need to do just that and keep in contact with you and be updated on your journey as you go through it, what's the best way for folks to do so?
My website is AlysiaLyons.com, AlysiaLyons.com. And I'm at Mom Support Coach on all the all the social medias.
That's right indeed. Well, you heard it here, folks. That's right indeed. Follow the wonderful AL herself. That's right, the Alysia herself. That's right indeed. Hear her roar on all the social medias, baby. That's right indeed. Keep up with the journey, indeed. Be on the lookout for some new content, indeed. Especially when she finally gets a chance to republish her fiction novels that were lost in the sands of time by bad business people. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. They're going to be coming back live and in living color, shinier covers, and everything else.
They're ready to meet the public, I'll tell you.
Oh yeah, that's right indeed. They be wearing some stilettos for no reason.
Right.
That's right.
Love it.
It's gonna strut its fantasy. If it's not fiction, it's gonna strut its knowledge.
A little bit of both, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Wow.
That's right indeed. They will play some Kiss as well for no reason. Strutter.
Oh, I love it.
That's right. Well, we already know the books are looking good, so my goodness, any parting words before we close up shop, Alysia?
Parting words. Just follow your joy, man. Like my cheeks hurt so much right now from smiling so much, but like I told you what happened right before jumping on this Zoom. Like I was not in the best mood, but there's just something about being with other people, connecting and finding joy, and like it just shifts your mood. Just find your joy.
How's it going, my friend? I'm so glad you made it to the end. That shows that you are an uncommon finisher, and I am so grateful for you sharing your ears, your attention, and your time to this wonderful podcast to do something that'll take yourself to the next level. And for everybody else involved in this wonderful program, share it with at least 3 people in your network so that way more folks can not only catch the fire that is on this podcast, but can also be inspired to be their best. Advance others to advance yourself.